Hey, welcome to the lighter side of the dark side. It's your weekly freak show, 4th of July weekend style, here on Renegade Radio. And I have to give a big shout out to Charlie Renegade for hooking this up. Also, we're on Steel Waves Radio and every podcast catcher, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer. Sauron for our Indian fans, and we've got quite a few. YouTube. It's Dark Mark, the goth comedian. And there's my co-host. You can actually see her this time if you're watching on YouTube.
What's up?
Everybody's favorite vegan heavy metal DJ, Hannah Bach.
How you doing, guys? Today's going to be a good one.
Yeah, you look good. You dialed up for this one.
Actually, I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt.
Yeah. But, yeah, well.
I'm not wearing pants.
It's a special show.
No
it's a 4th of July special. Our guest is a real rock star.
Really?
A rock star, a legend, one of the finest metal drummers. You know him mainly for White Zombie, but you've also heard him drum for Prong, Scum of the Earth, Society 1, Healer, which I've been listening to some of that, and I really am getting into that. And his new band, Bad News. And he's also recorded plenty of artists like L7 and Prong in the studio. I'm very honored, and I've got so many questions because I'm a big White Zombie fan. Mm-hmm. Ivan Prume.
Yay!
What's happening, man?
Did I just about cover it, Ivan? Or
Pretty much. My new band is called Big News.
Oh, Big News. I'm so sorry.
Big News. Bad News is, I don't know if you got bad news out there, that's for sure. There's Big News. It's a band name that we ended up with, and it's an awesome project. I love it. It's got some great energy and raw heavy rock stuff. I call it heavy rock. It's got some metal elements. It's got some good energetic stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Big News. What happened was we were talking about Bad News before the show, right before we recorded.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
That's why my mind. We were talking about the riots and everything.
Yeah. No worries, man.
So
and also with the band Prong, we never released anything together, so they won't be able to hear any stuff with me on there. But we do. I did work with Tommy Victor in my studio, and we try to get Paul Raven back in the band, and that didn't work out. It wasn't really much of so it's
you were in the Prong vortex for a little bit.
For a little bit there, yeah.
And Hannah, would you believe I have that exact Museum of the Weird shirt? I'm sure you've seen it before.
Oh yeah.
From Austin, Texas. So
I love Austin, man. I got some friends out there.
Yeah, I love Austin too. Before we get started, real quick, I'm going to do the sponsors real quick, and then we're going to get going because I got tons of questions, and I know Hannah does too. We are sponsored by Audible. If you go to audibletrial.com/DMS, you get 2 free books or 1 free book and 2 Audible originals and a free 30-day trial. You can cancel the next day. You keep the books. It's a great deal. I mean, it costs you nothing. Just go to audibletrial.com/DMS. You're on the road. I'm sure you listen to audiobooks.
I like audiobooks.
Yeah.
I mean, Audible's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, as artists, we're hurting now because we can't get crowds coming. There's no live performance. But you know who's also suffering is our restaurants. People own restaurants and our restaurateurs.
Oh.
So here in LA, and the next time you're in LA, I recommend everybody. Now they close I don't know. They were having people sit in restaurants. Now in LA, they can't. So you have to take out. But if you go to 1253 Vine Street, go to Doomy's Home Cooking. The best vegan food you ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I was planning on going to a 4th of July party. If I were to break the law and go to that party this weekend, I might pick up some Doomy's Home Cooking to go myself. They have the greatest stuff you've ever had. That's just the best. If I gave you this, you would swear it was meat. They've got pulled pork. They've got the nachos. One of the best nachos in LA by the LA Weekly. Burritos, flautas, just chicken parmesan. Unbelievable.
Is Leonore's still open over there? Leonore's vegan food. There was one. This is like 10 years or so ago, but I love their pizza there, man. Vegan pizza. But
Hannah?
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. I don't go out to eat very much. I usually cook
yeah.
everything.
So you don't know Leonore's?
Leonore's. They actually have vegan Mexican stuff there too, and pizza. And there was one in. I think that might have been shut down anyway. But
That sounds good.
since you mentioned that vegan food there, I
Yeah.
gotta check out that place that you're.
Yeah, do me some cooking next time you're in LA. 1253 Vine Street. You also have a restaurant in Culver City and one in Toronto, Canada. So,
Nice.
and we will also be sending out on our social media at Dark Mark Show on everything, and on the text of this show links where you can get 20% off Hustler Hollywood for all your sexual needs, and Spy Associates 20% off every order over $249. I know a lot of people getting cameras and surveillance equipment, and this is a way to save on that. So,
Don't forget the merchandise.
yeah, and we have merchandise on tpublic.com as well.
We do it. And you can link in my bio on my Instagram and it will take you right there.
Yes, get some Hannah t-shirts, masks. Here's for all my YouTube fans. Here's my mask. I was wearing this in Las Vegas. I was in the elevator with somebody, and they said they asked what it was, and I said, "Well, this is my face on my face."
It's on your face. There you
And
go.
they said that's very narcissistic, isn't it? And I said, "Yes, it is." But
Fucking
it's
beautiful.
both Mark Show merchandise or Hannah Bach merchandise.
I want one of those.
I'll send you one. Yeah, just give me your address. I'll get you. One.
Yeah. I need some new masks. I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
boring
Also-
white
also-
ones. I was gonna have my daughter draw something on it, but you know.
That's the least I can do for you having you on the show, Ivan.
Right on.
Hannah, Charlie he said that we could get Ivan. He said Hannah's gonna be excited because
Mhm.
it's metal, but I am as much of a White Zombie fan as you are.
You gotta.
However, you're more metal than I am,
Yeah.
so you get the first question.
I would actually. It's not about Rob Zombie. It's about or White Zombie. Excuse me. Back Off Jill. You worked with them.
Jack off Jill.
Yeah.
Yeah, creative creatures.
Yes. How was that?
Freaking great.
Yeah.
Oh wait, not a creative creature. My Cat. That was the song I ended up drumming on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, some cool stuff. It's been a few years. Jack off Jill. Yeah. Good.
Is Jack Up still is Jack Up Jill still around? Are they still going at it, Hannah?
I heard something from them like about 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't know. I'm getting older, so like 10 years is like a 2-year period to me.
Yeah, and me too. Because I think about 10 years ago is when you remixed the KMFDM song too.
Yep. Oh, you remixed the KMFDM song as well? I did a song for them.
No, you did. That's what I'm saying.
Are you talking to me? Okay, I thought you were talking to her. I was like, yeah.
Nothing.
I even
Yeah.
the KMFDM song.
Never say never. I did that
Yes.
song. That was fun. That was a good one.
album.
Yep. Creep. That was right about that time.
Because they had an album called Blitz, and then they did a remix album called Krieg.
Creed. Yes. Okay.
Krieg.
Blitz is
Like
right.
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
And they remixed Black Sunshine from White Zombie. Did you ever
That's
cross paths with them
right.
back in the day?
That was when I was in the band. That was off of the Black Sunshine song they did.
Song.
Thank you.
I'd always blare that right in the rainbow in the tiny little room upstairs.
Right on.
See, I know it. Now let's go back. Now your Ivan was born in Brooklyn. That's something we have in common, by the way.
Brooklyn.
What part?
Brooklyn Heights, but we moved when I was like 3, so I can't really claim it.
Yeah. I was. I lived there all the way through moving to LA. I did live in the Lower East Side of Manhattan for a few years before we actually moved to LA. But we'd still rehearse in my mom's basement in Brooklyn,
And what part of Brooklyn were you from?
Park Slope.
Oh, okay.
It turned big time yuppie.
Yeah, Brooklyn's it's totally
Yeah.
different, huh?
Yeah. But the early days, it was when you one side of the 7th Avenue was white, and the other side of 7th Avenue was black. So there was a lot of racial stuff going on. Mainly, I was just getting my ass kicked left and right. White boy Ivan over here, and it was tough going through school. My mom tried to transfer me from one school to another when I was in elementary school. You know, just like the young kid, just getting pushed around a lot, and it carved my my being in a lot of ways to be a stronger drummer, and I never ended up becoming a racist or anything. I never held it against these. You know, it was just because of the whole history, you know, and where these, you know, people they come from. So I ended up, you know, I look at each person as a human being. That's period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter what color your skin is or even where they're from or anything, because people are people. You got one character from one that's brought up one way that's totally different than another way, and you're like, why did this person turn into that and that person turn into that? You never know. You never know until you really get to know a person, and you have to give them a chance, I think. And you know, so I just put it right into the music, right into the drums. That's a healthy outlet for me, and everybody's got their way of releasing, and you know, you get built up tension from the way we're treated out there, so we got to stream it, you know. And
Well, in fact, I think a lot of people will be surprised to know that what I gather and what I've read from you, I read some review from you, that your drumming was very much influenced by funk and disco and rap.
yeah, because you know, and that's funny because I really enjoyed. Even though I was picked on, I really loved the black community. There's they have so much soul and the rhythm. They know how to dance. The Puerto Ricans they do all this shit that I'm like, wow. I tried so hard to be cool like that. I even tried breakdancing. I know the kickworm. I'm pretty good at that. You know, just watching that whole spirit, I was so.
And you were there right when it was like right when the beginning of rap, like.
Oh hell yeah! I Rapper's Delight. I said a hip, a hop, a hip, hip hop. You don't stop, a rocket to the bat. The bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. You know, I love that. And then my sister, she wrote on my book bag, disco sucks, and sent me to school. She's my older sister, and so she was like all about the Ramones and rock. And she's like, you have to listen to this. Disco sucks. Listen to this. That's old. This is new. I'm like,
I was like Hannah.
so I ended up getting my ass kicked again over that. I'm like, disco sucks. Fuck you. And then threw my bag down the hallway in school, books everywhere. I'm like, no. and then I came home with Rock Sucks on my book bag and Disco Rules. My sister, you know, then my sister, I'm fighting with my sister. I'm like, look. It's all good, man. Music's music.
I mean, when you were drum, would you learn how to play like "Staying Alive" or "Rapper's Delight" or any of that, Run DMC and stuff?
Oh,
like that?
I love playing the beats for rap music. You know, beats that make people dance. Yeah, like Run DMC, Grandmaster Flash.
Because it's interesting because a lot of the metal New York bands, especially that came out in the '80s and early '90s. Like Anthrax,
Yeah,
and Biohazard, and to a lesser extent, White Zombie, although there is a bit of a rap influence, not only in the vocals, but in the grooves as well. They're rap influence.
more with Sexorcisto. The earlier stuff was more metal influence. You know, like there was all metal influence, but you can hear more of the beats became more danceable later. The earlier White Zombie stuff with Tom,
Right.
More that stuff more tribal edged, with some you know, some more rhythms that more like. But the one song that I remember now that we were talking about it was Planet Rock. You know, the boom, pop, boom,
Rock, Planet Rock, yeah.
Yeah, that beat. I would take those beats and I'd just be jamming them and yeah, and that was like when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I didn't know how to play drums yet back then, but I'll be banging on stuff in school desks and stuff and create my own little thing. And then I ended up teaching at not teaching. I was a school counselor with a bunch of kids. The Summer Youth Employment Program when I was 12 years old, 13 years old. I was 12 years old, and they sent me up with a school on the other side of freaking the park that I was terrified for my life because these kids, they're like, what the fuck is this white boy telling us what to do? I'm like, it's all good, man.
Minds.
But anyway, this guy used to, I lived in a rooming house. My mom, my dad, they owned this brownstone in Park Slope, and so the house was zoned for rooming. So we'd have these drifters that come around, and they just rent a room, for a while, and they paid by the week. And so we'd get these weird, crazy people. And one time we got this hippie guy who would be had a bunch of instruments, and I kind of liked the guy because I thought he was really cool. He had a good taste in music, and turned me on to. He's like, look. You're making some money here at this school. I wanted to spend the money. I'm like, what should I spend the money on? I saved it up to the end of the summer, and that's when I got my first drum kit. He told me to get. He's like, I saved like $300, the whole summer, and minimum wage back then was like $3.35 or something an hour, and they so he was like, look in this newspaper. And look at what you want. What do you want? Let's go through it. There's all kinds of interesting stuff. I'm like, for $300, you can get all of this stuff. I'm like, looking at it, like, wow, a drum kit for $200. It was $250, and I got so I ended up getting this lady up the block. I didn't have a car. It was, Brooklyn, and so she ended up driving out there, and I brought my drum kit home, and he showed me a couple of jazz beats and some grooves, and then I started pounding away, man. I just started. It was nuts because I we got people like everywhere, so like I'm pounding these drums all hours of the day and night, and got
that's what girls tend to do.
Yeah. So anyway,
is that according to Wikipedia, that's when you met Sean Yseult, the bass player?
Yeah.
When you were 12.
I ended up meeting her through it was a different band. White Zombie. It was a punk rock band, but my friend I grew up with down the block asked me if I'm interested in joining a band, and I'm like, fuck yeah. And he's like, yeah, there's this punk rock girl in my class that has a band. I'll connect you guys. So I ended up calling her and went down for my audition, and got in the band, and then that band ended up breaking up because they wanted to go in one certain members wanted to be peace punk, the other members wanted to go more hardcore punk or something, and it was silly, and I was like, what the fuck, this is cool. We played a few shows, and Shauna was playing on this keyboard, and so we didn't really connect too well. I mean, I was like freaking 15 or 16 years old. Everyone else was in their 20s, and like, look at this little kid freaking banging on the drums, but he can play, right? So, and
so you were. It says you were 12, but you were a little older than that.
No, I wasn't 12. I 12 when I started playing the drums.
Okay.
But I was, so I was banging away on the drums, junior high school band, tearing it up over there, and that's where I really learned to work with an audience, the harder I played and the more funky I played, the more people were dancing, man. I had everybody jumping off their seats. I'm like, fuck yeah. And that was when I actually, I wasn't the kid who got picked on anymore.
You're the cool kid.
Yeah. I'm like, they're like, oh, this guy who like, it was weird. And it's confidence, and I learned how to keep my head up, and I also learned how to fight. I had a friend of mine who taught me karate. This guy came in from Korea. He's like, we ended up going to karate class together, and and I learned how to defend myself, and then I was introduced to heavy metal. I learned how to dress and look like a freaking dangerous criminal.
That's when you started growing the facial hair, which you still
Yeah,
have.
pretty much.
I mean, that was
I didn't really. The earlier days, I couldn't get facial hair just yet. but yeah. The more and joining White Zombie and the heavy metal music and all that stuff, like I learned that looking like a biker was cool.
Yeah.
That image.
which was kind of what was cool about White Zombie is that there's three hairy biker looking guys and John.
Yeah.
So it was such an interesting look. But it's funny because I like a lot of people. I'm sure maybe Hannah was like this. I just remember, my first introduction to White Zombie was, I think, with a lot of people, was Thundercat 65, and then you would go back, and I would get like I had the Make Them Die Slowly CD, and then when they re-released all the even older stuff, I started listening to that. And I liked it, but it's funny because you guys weren't always a metal band.
Yeah, we're more like noise rock, alternative, weird.
They did say that, and I saw something where Rob Zombie said they called us noise rock, but that's only because we had shitty equipment and it came out like noise. Do you agree with that?
Yes and no. We were noisy also because the way the instruments were performed. And the recording equipment, the studios we went to, the time we had. I mean, back then, you were like, okay, we can afford 6 hours. So we had to do the whole album in one take. It was like from beginning to end, and then we mix it real quick. So with limitations like that, it's going to get fucked up a little bit, and we just push it's like, yeah, let's bring this up, let's bring this down, get the faders kind of screwed up.
Well, were you influenced by like Sonic Youth and the Swans and John Zorn and stuff like that?
Yeah. Not me. The other guys in the band. They introduced me to those bands, and I like them. But I was turning up Metallica and the whole other genre. But I really ended up liking some Sonic Youth songs and some stuff there, and the whole Surfers and. I mean, it's a whole nother animal. It's like.
If you go back, it really is. I know, Hannah, I don't know how far back you go on the White Zombie, if you've listened to Soul Crusher.
Yeah, we used to steal my best friend at the time, her brother's CDs, and we just look at the photos, like, okay, this looks cool, that looks cool, and we just grab them. So that's how we learned like White Zombie, Slayer, and like Marilyn Manson. And
Psycho Head Blowout, and like the real old stuff.
I really, and I really love Rob Zombie's artwork. I mean, he's the way he. Like I had him draw a freaking crazy ass skull on the back of my leather biker jacket when I was in high school. And I was like, holy shit, I'm going to fucking wear this to my high school. This is cool. And people were like, what the fuck? I was like, that was like really punk rock back then. So you take that artwork and you got it on the album covers, on our flyers. It really gave the band a flavor. It's not just the music now, it's the image.
Yeah.
They were loved by a lot of people because I remember in high school there'd be like the metalheads, the hippies, and then the Marilyn Manson people. And the metalheads hate Marilyn Manson people, but if you love Zombie, you were cool.
That's so weird. I know, it's like so much different. We'd play a show and we'd like have, our stage, and there's the audience out there, and they would be separated. It's like, here's the freaking goth chicks, then you got the metalheads. Then you got the skinheads moshing over there, and then you got the punk rocker with the mohawks. I'm like, can we blend? It's like, what the fuck's going on? Usually there'd be a riot going on, but actually people are all freaking rocking out in their own special way.
Well, it's great. And actually, Kurt Cobain, of all people, was a huge White Zombie fan.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that. I was like, what? When I heard that, because I like Nirvana. I mean, there was some. Really this is
like when they were pre Nevermind.
Yeah.
And you guys apparently there's a picture of him at you guys opened for Mudhoney in Seattle.
Yeah.
There's a picture of him like on the side of the stage.
Yeah. Rob told me that. I was like fucking hey, what?
And Iggy Pop was a fan, and Thurston Moore was a fan.
Iggy Pop ended up coming up on Black Sunshine, you know.
Yeah,
And how is Iggy Pop to hang out with?
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I was like, we got Iggy Pop in the studio. Wow. Yeah, I was definitely. I was like we're going places now. Like, you know, that was when we suddenly, you know, we're here. We have a major record deal. We got these big studios, and now we're getting connected with famous people. And then I'm like, something's going on here. It's a cool feeling, and you know, and I listened to Iggy Pop back in the day, you know, and I you know, to have him do that, I'm like, is it the money? Like, how are we getting this guy here? You know,
Yeah.
great management. You know, it's like people talk, push. You know, but you know, and then we're having Andy Wallace produce the record, and Andy Wallace ended up producing or engineering on the Nevermind record.
Yeah, no, he's produced like or engineered basically everything.
Yeah.
But I thought I should go back. Now, when did you meet Rob Zombie for the first time?
He used to when Shauna and I was in the band, the punk rock band Life.
Mm-hmm.
Rob used to come by and pick her up from the studio.
Okay, they were dating.
I'm like, there's a white Rastafarian in the studio. I'm like, this guy, you know, he looks homeless. But you know, they seem like they like each other. It's cool, you know, it's all good. But I was like, I don't really meet that many white people that have the dreadlocks like that, and I'm like, very interesting. And then
in 80,
and they invited me to join White, and then they invited me to come in and play with White Zombie. They put together White Zombie. They had Peter Lind, I can't remember pronounce his name, but he did a few songs with them, the Gentleman Junkie. Mm-hmm. And so Robin, they invited me to come into the studio, and we started jamming, and that was when I first met Rob, and I wasn't sure if we were hitting it off or not.
Why not?
Pretty much throughout the whole time in the band. We had our great moments, and we had our moments that I felt like I cannot really connect with him. Like he's hiding, and he'd hide into his artwork. You know, everybody has their ways. You know, we're all human beings, and we're not built the same. Although we are the same, but we have our own uniqueness, and his personality has a special uniqueness. And you know, he ends up a lot of people. You know, burn bridges with, and then a lot of people just don't get it. And I have to, right now, I don't, you know, I kind of forgive and forget some of the negative stuff that went on. But yeah, how do you, you know, I loved his artwork, and I speak the good things, you know. Mm-hmm. There's the bad things, but I prefer not.
I don't want to. I don't want to smear anybody, but it's odd that I read an interview with Sean where she says she's still in contact with basically, you know, everybody in White Zombie, or you know, at least can contact with them, and seems to be on fairly good terms, except Rob Zombie.
I know, and the thing is, when there's a lot of people don't know how to handle obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we come across something, and especially, you know, with different personalities, they're like, I'm done, and they just walk, and the bridge is shut, doors shut, and I think that creates a problem, because then we don't get to experience inner growth.
Mm-hmm.
We don't learn about ourselves and develop better, and I you know, and I learned that along the way. You know, when I was younger, and I think this most of us, you know, when we're younger, it's a little awkward, our, you know, personality, like dealing with, you know, well, fuck you, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You know, you know, and then, but it's like, wow, you know, it's like, wait a minute, you know, let's hold the mirror up for a second.
So it's kind of like, it's like when you break up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Some people stay friends with them, and some people
Right.
Nothing to do with them. And you
Right.
think that's just, he just wants to shut the door and move on.
Yeah, and it's hard. You know, some people, it's like, oh my God, like I'm not gonna say names or but there's people I'm close to that I'm like, I thought I would never, ever, like, still talk to, but but it's like you gotta turn poison into medicine, because every obstacle has a benefit, and I'm a Buddhist, and it's pretty much, I gotta thank the Buddhism and the laws of cause and effect, and how we can just grow and be stronger people, and that's where I think I got a lot of my strength from, the studying of Buddhism.
When did you start?
Go ahead.
When did I start Buddhism? Well, actually, my sister introduced me to Buddhism when, actually, right before I joined White Zombie. It started off as you chant this. This is back in 1986. It's like, you chant these words, you can transform your life and live any just create your dreams.
That's
And I was like, well, I want to lose my virginity. I'm fucking 18 years old. I want a girlfriend, a real girlfriend, and I want to fucking be cool. I'm tired of getting picked on. I'm tired of this me. And fuck, I'm getting goosebumps. Within 5 months, I met a girl at a Slayer show. Fucking hot, like, rocker chick. I was like, she had a Slayer shirt. I'm like, leather jacket. I'm like, fuck, we have the same curly long hair. I'm like, you're my woman, yeah. And we ended up, it was like fast, hard, like, relationship. I mean, I was still friends with her, actually, but she ended up sleeping with a bunch of my friends, and but it's like, we got to be careful the causes we make, and that was like I just jumped right in, because I'm like, this is great, and she, we dated for a year, and then I ended up after that point, White Zombie happened. I was like, I want this band to freaking. I put my whole life into it. I chanted all the time to turn this band into something like that's going to take over the world. Biggest band I could possibly be, because I wanted to reach. I wanted to feel like I can make a difference, and through my music, and I remember, like, fucking frostbitten knuckles trying to put these flyers up on these poles in the middle of the winter in New York, and I was saying to myself, it's like, at the same time just chanting, and it's when you have a vision and you put your life behind it, shit's gonna happen. But then having the vehicle along with that, where you're interconnecting, because I feel like the way it works is everything is one. Like, the whole universe there's so much resources out there. But then why do we have a life like this, right? Well, our life is just like, have these limitations, obstacles. We create them in our mind, right? We create these obstacles, but there's limitless potential in the world. Now, to get from here to there, we have to interconnect everything. And to interconnect everything, we have to expand. We have to open up our beacon. And that is the word. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is what we chant. And that interconnects it all. And then suddenly motion starts happening. And it unlocks. It's like an unlock of fortune. They call it the treasure tower. It's pretty fucking cool, man. And that's just that's been my life since this whole thing.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff. What's weird about the White Zombie story is you guys got less alternative and more metal.
Yeah.
While the world was getting less metal and more alternative, and then you hit with an album in the midst of grunge.
It's we never gave up.
Metal album.
It's when you never give up. It's about sticking to your guns, and we didn't care about what was going on out there. We never cared. We thought we'd never make it. We really didn't believe that we were cool at all. Like we said, we knew what we liked, and we knew what sucked, but we were always feeling like our band, like, no one's going to show up to our shows, and then. It was like, wow. I think it's a healthy way to be too, because if you think you're the greatest shit out there all the time, people are gonna hate you, right?
Very true.
And it's good to not set yourself up. If you say you suck, then it's like, oh my God, they like me. You feel great, right? But if they think you suck, then there's no disappointment because you thought you sucked anyway.
Yeah.
And then when the album came out, it was not a hit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It took a little while. It took
Beavis and Butthead.
That's right. Beavis and Butthead. Got to give it up for them, man. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it was you guys were going from touring with Sonic Youth and Mudhoney and Butthole Surfers. Then you were on tour with Pantera and people like that.
That was huge.
And I'm sure you got some stories about hanging out with Pantera. I know that you guys did some shows together and
Yeah, man.
Vinny and Dimebag. Everybody's got like, wow.
That was the coolest point in my career because I got to tell you, I was a huge Pantera fan, and
And they were just breaking.
They were just breaking. I'd go to their shows, and then next thing you know, our management is like, "Yeah, we manage them too." I'm like, "Really? Fucking A." And then we got a bunch of shows with them, and I was like, "Fuck." Yeah. I'd every show I'd always hang out behind Dimebag. Behind Vinnie Paul on the drums because I'd stand back there and just freaking rock out to every song, and then we play we played our set first, and then Pantera would play because we were because they already had the following, and we were just coming out, and
Right.
And that was pretty freaking awesome, man.
And you both, White Zombie and Pantera, got labeled with as quote unquote groove metal, whatever that means. But I think it means that you had there's a funk there, there's a groove. Well, it may not be rap, it may not be dance, but you're definitely shaking your head and your head definitely going.
They definitely have sounds to them, and they speak to, I think, to very different genres and people.
It's hard not to sway and bang your head to either one of them.
I think Prong was a groove metal band before White Zombie, but they were never really looked at that way, huh? Like because I remember at that time I was like, because Prong gave that bouncy, beat, a lot of like disco beats with funky beats with the heavy guitar, and then but you had Metallica, you had Sepultura, you had Iron Maiden, like a lot of those bands, they're just straight driving double bass, but it didn't have as much of a bounce. But
And a lot of people really compliment you on your cymbal work, which I don't know if there's enough of that in metal. Maybe there needs to be more.
Interesting. I got a lot of my cymbal work from Dave Lombardo. I like his right cymbal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, as the record was taking off, as Beavis and Butthead finally were exposing people to White Zombie and the Russ Meyer visuals and samples of Thundercat 65, and people started getting into it, you left the band. Now, what happened?
Well, Rob Zombie and I we weren't talking for like 4 months. It was like there were some certain things that he did that was unacceptable to me, and just to get right to the point, they wanted another drummer to come into the band, and without talking to me about it, Rob would spit on me on stage, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah, like he was basically, I don't really talk about this in interviews, but I feel like maybe I should just tell the public because it's kind of like, something that was unacceptable, and we had some differences, and we had some stuff that needed to be worked out. But instead of working it out, it ended up becoming like war, and his method, and I believe this was done through management or just people telling him that you got to force him out of the band. You don't want him. You want him to quit.
Oh, okay.
So they basically made an environment that I did not want to stay in anymore and quit the band, which I did. But because I was like, well, I was like, we need to talk about this. And he's like, if you don't like it, quit the fucking band. And I said, is that what you want? And he said, that's right, quit. And he hung up on me and they all disappeared. They all took off and left me to pack my shit up. So if I would have known this then, I would have fucking sued the living shit out of them.
Right.
But instead, I wanted it to, depart in a peaceful way. And I just settled for this measly old $5,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And because at the time I didn't have the budget for a big time lawyer, and and this lawyer I ended up getting, she said, you better take that because you probably won't get anything.
Wow.
And I had some other lawyer who was like, well, you got to come up with $7,000 or something retainer because we could sue him for about $1 million or something.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, but what's the chances of that? The band wasn't that big yet, and but anyway,
That's sad because you guys, when you were demoing La Sexorcisto and you all came up through the clubs, it was in your mother's basement, right?
yeah.
And the whole band was collaborative at that time.
Okay, well, you're talking about publishing, writing. I got that. I got my 25% of that.
Okay, but I mean, you guys were there from the beginning.
Yeah.
So how you guys?
Yeah, I should have. Yeah, I gave up the name of the band because I'm like, I'm not going to use White Zombie. Why would I want that? But I didn't think that the name of the band included merchandise. Like every time they sell.
Well, there was some camaraderie at one time. There was camaraderie at one time, and the record. I mean, it's firing on all cylinders. Everybody on that record is. I mean, that's what's different to me listening to White Zombie than what Rob Zombie's doing now, which is okay. But Sexorcisto was a band.
Well, that's the difference, and that's what he gave up by kicking me out of the band because because little by little, like there was a lot of other shit going on between the other members too.
Right.
And Robert Shauna used to be a couple. They broke up, and bridges got burned there. I witnessed things that made me say, wait, this is like. Here I got Rob doing something I think is not acceptable. I didn't know they broke up yet, but I'm like watching things. I'm like, no, for so many reasons. And I'm not going to say what I witnessed, but I was like, my respect was gone. I was like, and then I was like, why am I going to try to communicate and work something out with somebody that I just cannot stand being around, and he couldn't stand being around me? I don't know. So it's like when you're touring, it's really uncomfortable. Like every time you get next to this person, and so here's Rob saying, I broke up with her, I hate him, and there's Jay, and then I saw them at each other's throat once, and I'm like, so that's when he went solo, and so you gotta put yourself in his shoes. So he's suffering around this environment, and it's like, yeah, we were a band, but that band transformed into this thing, this ugly thing that, and the music, when I heard that he wanted to go more like ministry drive, I'm like, I wanted to go more, badass, cool, funky beats, with metal, and I'm like, that's not the direction I want to go in either. But I wasn't thinking about quitting until he put the words in my mouth and spit on me to make me like, I can't be around a fucking guy who wants to spit on me. I was literally watching my foot behind him going down the stairs like I was gonna kick him. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because I want to kick him down the stairs. Oh, he's gonna die. Yes. No. But it's like when you hate somebody and it's like it's time to move on.
It
Like,
is
you
for
know,
yourself, you know.
exactly. And you know, I saw him at the Ramones memorial funeral with thing for Joey Ramone. There was like a outdoor movie concert thing. You're in LA?
Yeah,
Mhm.
the
Yep.
Uh,
higher cover,
yeah, there was. Do you remember? I think it was for
Johnny Ramone.
Johnny Ramone. Yeah, there was. You know, where they have outdoor movies
Yeah,
in the park. Yeah. Rob Zombie went to one of those, and I saw him, and we're like, we shook hands. You know, we're like, hey, okay, it's all good, man. So, you know, there's not like, you know, we see each other, we start brawling or anything.
you're
Nothing.
not spitting on each other now.
Yeah. He got what he wanted, and so I don't think he wants to spit
I'm
on
glad
me.
to hear. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you guys actually shook hands after all these years.
Yeah, and we, you know, it's like, and it didn't take long, you know, to really, you know, make up, you know, because to me, I have to look at all the value of what I created with that band, and you know, I have to show appreciation, even though we had such obstacles that and we couldn't deal with it then. I'm not gonna throw it all away like that, you know. And
Sure.
I tried to get us to go out and play the Sexorcisto in its entirety on a tour once, and tried to bring the band together. And each time I say, "Come on, guys, what the fuck?" You know, it's like Rob is like slams the door shut. He's like, "I ain't doing nothing with you fuckers."
Well, also play with a White Zombie cover band.
That's right. That's
Zombies?
right. And that's actually how I ended up with them because I tried to get the singer to replace Rob Zombie
Mhm.
with Sean A.J. because he did such a great job. And then I'm like started rehearsing these songs just to get myself back into the vibe. And playing those songs, I was feeling so alive. I was like, holy fucking Christ, look what we did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Until I did that, I didn't realize how cool we you know we had there. And so I was like, okay, so I'll just do it maybe just a few shows, and then we ended up doing more, adding more to that, and I also was in the midst of a fucked up divorce,
Aw.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
which got me out of that ugliness of divorce into the just
yeah. Other things. Yeah. Other
putting it
things.
into the drums. You know what I mean? Putting it into the drums and being at my best.
I'll
And
tell you, I
Go ahead.
grew up recently, and they scream for White Zombie for him to play those songs.
Really?
But he wants to hear White Zombie. Yeah,
Right on.
one of them, you know, up there. So,
No, it's true, and he's always asked about a reunion, and he always says no way. But you also played with Scum of the Earth,
Yeah.
which was Rob Zombie's first solo guitar guy, Riggs, which
Uh-huh.
sounds more like solo Rob Zombie than what solo Rob Zombie's doing now.
Isn't that true? Yeah.
How did you get hooked up there?
Well, I can't really remember the exact details at the moment, but I remember him always being connected with Sanaz, Metal Sanaz, you know, Metal Sanaz, and I think we were going
Yeah.
to, we ended up not really creating anything. It was all media. It was all just publicizing. We ended up working on a couple of different songs that we were supposed to record, but nothing ended up getting recorded. It was just freaking partying in the studio, like wasting time and
Yeah, I saw the Sanaz videos.
yeah.
That's
It's like,
on
what
the
are we
album,
what are
though.
we doing today? Let's jam. You know, we're just like tearing it up and then look at this equipment, look at these, you know, and then we like chit chat for hours, and I'm like, what are we doing?
I thought you played on the album, though. Am I wrong?
I don't remember recording anything with him.
Okay. Well, I just but what you did, and you also were you played with our friends Matt Zane and sing
Yeah.
Mean in Society One.
Yeah.
I would imagine going on the road with them would be even wilder than going on the road with White Zombie.
And well, totally different ways. The Society One was kind of colored with a lot of pornography.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave it just an erotic thing with this metal that wasn't really about the music in any way, shape, or form. The music was the music, and then we had porn stars fucking on our stage. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? It's kind of cool, you know. She's sitting on her face, but you know, it's like, okay, there's a time for that, but I'm not gonna start fucking jumping into that. I gotta play, and so you know, let me tell you, man, the band was great. Paul Raven on fucking bass was fantastic.
Yeah, from Prong, yeah.
Yeah, and Sin was awesome. Matt Zane was super cool. We had pyrotech shit going on. We had you know,
He was hanging on hooks and stuff, and
that was before I joined the.
Oh, okay.
But that came later. Yeah, we ended up taking this freaking crazy long break, and then we went in different directions. He continued on with the band and did the hooks thing after that. Paul Raven ended up going on a tour and pulled an important recording snake that belonged to him from the studio. We were recording in my studio. We had Bill Kennedy, who was renting out my house. He did Motley Crue and an engineer, great fucking guy. He used to work at A&M Studios. He produced, or didn't produce. You know, it's funny. I think his name is producer on there, but he was never in the room. But you know, he did great engineering, and but we were in midst of recording, and Paul Raven ended up pulling this. Rest in peace, Paul Raven. I mean, I fucking love the guy, but when he did that, it kind of slammed the brakes on our whole process of recording, and we couldn't continue, and then we ended up taking this long fucking break that was just a little bit, you know,
A little too long.
a little too long. I think I went to Costa Rica. I was like, okay, we're not doing anything. I went to Costa Rica, and it was a 2-week trip with some friends, and I fell in love with Puerto Viejo. I was like, this is the coolest fucking place, man. We had it was incredible, and I ended up the 2 weeks turned into like a couple months. But I would be. That was, no, I'm sorry. That was during the recording. I remember they were still working in my studio, or no. Megadeth was in my studio. Sorry, Megadeth was in my studio.
Yeah, this is what we're missing in the timeline, because after White Zombie and before all this stuff we're talking about, or during, you built a studio in LA, right?
I had a recording studio. That's the recording studio in LA. And Bill Kennedy was renting my house. And I was going through, at that time, my first divorce. And I ended up saying, fuck it, I'm going to move into my recording studio, rent out my house because I don't want to be in there. Mm-hmm. And I built an additional apartment on the house that I lived in. And Bill Kennedy rented the house. And I was like, fuck yeah, you can record here. And so we had a great partnership going on there. And then I went to Costa Rica. And so the Society One thing was somewhere fits in there somehow.
Right, so you haven't been exactly idle since you left White Zombie.
Oh no, I got really heavy into African percussion, Latin percussion. I went to Percussion Institute of Technology.
Oh.
And, yeah, I went for a full year after White Zombie, and because I loved, the Sepultura hearing all the different drums, I got it really into drums all around. It was a decision I made. I had to either choose what you love, or I had to choose a career. And my career, I wasn't really, practical income. Like,
right, 9 to 5.
The music business at the time, I'm like, do I want to? I don't want to join another band. I didn't want to. I thought about maybe studio musician. I thought about, but I love construction work. I'm like, I could just go into learn how to build houses and stuff. Get a license for that. There was different paths I could take. and I was like, I'm gonna just focus the education on the drum and different where to each like the history and all that stuff. I skipped that part in my life, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna do that, and I did that, and then White Zombie was freaking huge suddenly, and I got some money. I bought a house and ended up building that recording studio. Got into recording, and started putting all these other bands together.
And I mean, it's some heavy duty bands in your studio. Like
Yeah.
Megadeth, L7. I mean, these are.
Yeah. That was the
Pretty
'90s, man. That's all through the '90s there.
Good times.
Good times. I got, and I ended up, anyway, so.
Were you at the drum institute after White Zombie?
I did.
Did people recognize you there?
Yeah.
Like you're in the same class as people like.
Yeah, it was weird. It was cool. It was fun. I got to be a kid again, you know, because there were a lot of kids there, and there was a lot of interesting characters, and it was funny. It was good times. I felt like it was another phase of high school.
Oh, that's cool. But done right, you know, no bullying or any of that.
Oh yeah, the bullying was more in the junior high school actually.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I got lucky in the high school. I went to art and design high school in Manhattan, where I jump on the subway every day to go to high school. I was like this is cool. My friends and I would always like jump between cars, and you know, because it would be packed. The subways were jam packed in rush hour, so a lot of times we might miss our train because we couldn't get in. So we'd pull the gates and climb in between the cars, and we'd hang on until we get full. It was fun though. It was scary, man. My friend Adam Zelliger, man, that kid, good old friend.
But that's interesting. I didn't know that because you, Rob, and Sean had gone to art school.
We were a bunch of art students in a rock heavy metal band. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 art students in a rock band.
Yeah. Parson, Tom Five, and the Ine Kostabi, great artist. He was the first guitar player with White Zombie. He was in the punk rock band too. So not only Shauna, Ine, and I were in the band Life.
Right.
Ine joins White Zombie with that drummer Peter for 3 songs, leaves the band, Peter leaves the band, and then I joined the band with this guy Tim Jeffs, another artist. All artists. Yeah, and then I don't think Jay was an artist.
Jay's the only one that wasn't an artist.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know where the time goes. So we've already done an hour, but I got a few more questions for you.
Go for it.
Can you believe this? And I'm sure Hannah's got quite a few too. Is it true that your great grandfather was a violin player of some renown in the 1800s?
Yes.
When he went to the White House?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's pretty awesome because I ended up getting his music, not the sheet music, and then I found a recording of an orchestra performing it on the radio, performing his songs. So I got to listen to it, and it's remarkable, man. He he made a difference. And
he was a rock star of his day.
There's a street named after him in Montreal, Canada.
Oh, wow.
And he actually created the music movement of the music scene back in the 1800s in Montreal.
So it definitely runs in the family then, because you created something pretty special too. You still are.
Thank you. He married an opera singer, Del Vecchio or something, and she was famous too.
Are your parents musical at all?
My father used to play a bunch of instruments. He passed away in the 90s, but he played the accordion, the piano. He'd sing, but never did anything. He was a foreign language teacher, and he wrote and spoke 7 languages fluently.
Wow.
Fluently. Fucking guy, man. Yeah. I can barely speak English. No.
And by the way, I just wanted, and we're going to talk about big news at the end. And I've got a couple of things that some Instagram fans have, and whatever Hannah, I'm sure has a bunch of questions, but from what I've heard from Healer, I really like, and I really
Thank you.
there's some complicated drumming on there.
Yeah, that band was.
Tell Hannah about Healer, and Hannah, I'm sure you've heard Grooveropolis. As I was listening to it, I was like, I've heard this in clubs, in industrial clubs.
Nice. That's fucking awesome. Groovenopolis, man, that's the song. I wrote the lyrics on that song. Actually, the violinist of that band is also married to an opera singer who is also from Montreal, Canada.
Wow.
And and actually, it looks like he is joining a new band that I just put together. We don't have a band name yet. This is not big news. This is big news, but not big news, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
This other project actually has the original bass player for Big News, and we have Martin St. Pierre, the violinist from Healer, who we're trying to get him on board. He says he's on board, but he's going through because the whole pandemic. He works.
It's tough to go, yeah.
And he does a Cirque project, Cirque du Soleil in Vegas, and they declared bankruptcy. So he's worried about his situation there.
But it's industrial.
Maybe that stuff needs to be bleeped there or cut out because I don't know if I was supposed to share that information about Cirque du Soleil. Anyway,
you didn't confirm or deny, but the band was it's tribal and Latin percussion meets
Healer.
industrial meets Middle Eastern violin, and it's really cool, Hannah. I recommend it.
Thank you so much for sharing.
I'll send Hannah the video. I think you like, and I know you've heard the song. I think you like it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that band didn't really at the time didn't get picked up. It was not new agey enough at the time, or not metal enough. It was right in between, and so they didn't know how to market it. We tried to get it distributed. We got to try to get it picked up with labels, and the industry at the time was just not knowing what to do. And a lot of time passed, and Martin went back to the circus in Vegas, and I ended up leaving LA, moved up here to Oregon, and so that was the point where that project kind of fell apart. But yeah.
But and also I got a couple fans mentioned on Instagram. Android Neltoy 311 said that you heavily influenced his career as an illustrator. He learned to draw by listening to a lot of Sexorcisto, and he greatly appreciates your talents.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I helped out that way. That's awesome.
And Evan Clark 815 says you have sick drum beats. We're almost a fool not to keep you. And our friend Dangerous D, who's a sideshow performer, been on the show, and he taught Hannah how to breathe fire. Said, "Holy shit, my hero, dude."
Wow! Thank you.
So, Hannah, do you have any other questions? I know I've been talking so much, as is my wont. I didn't get chance to ask any questions. Go ahead.
Right now, I'm just like, oh, what else do I ask? Because my mom called me today, and I told her, I was like, guess what? Guess who I'm interviewing? And she's like, wow, that little girl inside of you is probably super nervous right now. But I don't know what else to say.
Wow, thank you. That's cool. That's interesting.
Now, why did you move to Portland? Was it the weather or what?
Yeah, though, not only the weather. It's the air. The air, like that trip to Costa Rica, kind of opened me up to realize that I was missing out living in LA. I was living in the Valley, so maybe it's a little different, right? I mean,
I understand.
It's like try to breathe. It's like squeeze your neck a little bit, and don't let the air enter your lungs for see how long you can live. Okay, like when you limit the oxygen.
You've been hanging out with Matt and Sin too long.
Is that what they're talking about?
I'm sure they've done that.
Oh, I think I know what you mean. No, see, the point is, I felt like I'm not connected as like when I came up to the Pacific Northwest, something hit me. I felt more alive, and I said to myself, you know, the main thing I was doing down in LA was virtual sessions. Virtual sessions, meaning bands would send me drums. Bands would send me music and say, I want to hear some drums on here. Here's, you know, and I'd send them a PayPal link. They'd pay me a drum, send it back, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, if this is where I'm making my money, what the hell am I doing here in LA? I put a band together, it falls apart. Put another project together, you know, I'm like, you know, I got married. I had a baby that just was, you know, came, and you know, and then I had another. So it's, you know, I started to move towards family and putting bread on the table and how I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can lower my overhead by selling the house there, buy something here, and
at half the cost, I'm sure.
at half the cost, and be able to have all the benefits of being up here in the Pacific Northwest. And that's pretty much what happened. And here's my recording studio down here now. This is the basement of this house, and I got a vocal booth back there, live room over there.
And I heard that you got a lot of this equipment through your old, you had a metal radio show.
Metalopolis, yes.
Yeah.
And that CBS Radio ended up selling all other stations to Alpha Broadcasting back in, 2011 or something like that, 2010. And they just basically bought one building and put all the radio stations in there. All the other radio stations around the city shut down, leveled. And they were like, Ivan, I heard you're building a recording studio and you can use some materials. These sound panels right here, that door right there, that glass right there. Like all of the, I pretty much said, you're tearing this down? I want it. I got a fucking, he's like, Ivan, you better get a U-Haul truck and fill it up. I have freaking hundreds of feet of 25 pair copper microphone cables for like full-blown boards.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I might end up having a freaking control room on the other side of my property. I might need that snake. They were going to freaking throw it away.
That's all state-of-the-art equipment.
That copper wire alone, I could probably get $1,000 for all the copper I got.
Sure.
But I still have it in my garage right now. This microphone arm, see, I got this right here. This is radio style. I got a big ass mixer board that was super huge, and the problem was it had weird connectors, so I ended up trading it for a Neve 1073 preamp there, and there's some of my other gear. I kept that Avalon forever since I was in LA. I ended up picking up this Phoenix Audio 8-channel. This is great for drums, freaking awesome. And here's my beautiful mixer board, 32 channels, flying faders.
That's nice.
It's nice. And look at my big ass monitor.
Wow.
And hey, it's you guys. Hey, what's up? Hey, I got to introduce you. Oh, I introduce you to yourself. Hey.
Yeah.
And just real quick, how much fun was it doing the radio show? You got to interview Rob Halford and all these
Oh,
other.
I loved it. I loved it. And at the
You're a
same
talker.
Yeah.
What was that?
You're a talker. You're a Brooklyn guy.
I know. yeah. It got a little much at the time. I mean, I loved it. I ended up even taking it out to the venues. We would go to the shows and go backstage and talk to the bands and interview them about. We did the local segments. We had national touring acts. Got to play great freaking music. And then Trish, I had her she co-hosted the show, and I wasn't even co-host. She was my sidekick at the same time. She had her own part, a segment where she did the news. it was a great running show every Saturday for a few years, and yeah. So that was fun, But at the same time, I was it kind of took up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of my time because I'd like to prepare and have a great show every Saturday.
Just
And,
like Mark,
yeah, like you, huh?
yeah, working the show, it's amazing.
You don't realize until you do it. You think people just bullshitting, but there's work that goes into it.
Yeah. And then you got to work out the playlist of songs, and you want them to be the best songs ever. And you got to figure out what you want to say to who you're going to interview, and you got to research the artists and
Don't say the wrong thing.
and and then and at this, so I had to make money, and that wasn't a money making thing at all. You got some commercial time to sell, but who wants to invest in radio when radio was dying, and so.
Well, you got a whole studio out of it.
Yeah, I know that happened after the whole thing collapsed, but I kept the show going for another probably 6 months, and then KUFO went off the air. That whole thing, but it actually went off the air. I decided I'm pulling my show, and then literally like 3 more weeks went by, and then KUFO completely went off the air.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a news station now. Now it's just news.
And so tell us about big news. Now, you sent me a clip that's on YouTube now. The 4 of you, now that we're all doing the Zoom thing and we're in different things, you guys did a song, the 4 of you, in your separate apartments or houses, and I've seen other bands do it, and it's always impressive every time how you get in sync. It seems impossible.
Well, one of the important things is you having is the drummer you have plays to. I started here. I ended up playing to a click to the actual album, and then I would send it over to the guitar player and bass player to lay their parts, and then they send it to me, and I mix those together, send it to the singer. And then he lays his vocals on top of that. The video, we each synchronize to our own video, and we do like a 4 count. So the audio, they're listening, and they can sync it up. And then our bass player now is he's really good at video editing, and so that kind of helps.
That's great, and I'm sorry, Hannah, did you?
I'm just.
She's just smiling. She's still giddy that she's talking to the guy from White Zombie. But this new band, it's more of a very heavy rock band. I wouldn't say metal, but real good hard rock band.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a fun gig. It's cool. I love all the guys. We have a great lineup, and I'm hoping we're doing another song. We're actually doing another song off the record, a video that should be released in a few weeks.
We'll be waiting for it.
Definitely looking for it, and
I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And I guess before we go, and I know that we're like 15 minutes over, and I apologize. I appreciate you sticking around. Any last thing about that you have for all the White Zombie fans out there that remember you and remember what a great drummer you were and how great your facial hair was and everything else?
Well,
still is.
Thank you. I'm working on it. It's getting a little white. The one thing I want to share is wherever your heart is, believe in it, trust yourself. Don't follow what's going on out there too much, because when we follow out what's going on out there, we end up wanting to copy it. And if there's something in your heart that you feel is super cool, go after it, and never give up. That's the one thing I tell everybody. I talk to about it's we end up finding ourselves quitting a little bit, maybe one step short of hitting something, and You know, and it could be anything. It could be a relationship situation. It could be, and it's because we get these obstacles. The obstacles come up right before, you know what I mean? Like right before you reach that top is when you're like, oh, fuck this. This is too much, you know, because that's the opportunity for inner growth, opportunity for getting to the next level in your life.
That's great words for everybody. Ivan, any social media, any thing you want to get out there for you?
Wow. Social media. Well, it's my website, ivandeprume.com. Burning Sound Studios. I can record drums for you. Anybody out there that has a project that wants some cool drums, I'm offering it here, and it's acoustic drum kit in my live room there. For big news, we have Facebook, Instagram, and let me. I keep getting these weird unknown callers just calling me right now.
The robocalls, we get them all day long.
Yeah, what's up with
Maybe
that?
Maybe Rob Zombie's crank calling you.
Yeah. Oh, Rob. The big news link is I got to actually pull it up here.
Well, let me ask you one other question, and this is actually a Rob Zombie question, but
yeah,
I'm probably never going to interview him, especially after this show. He was he originally, his pseudonym was Rob Stryker before it was Rob Zombie. You know what that was?
Yeah. Well, it was his real name is Robert Cummings, and then he got changed to Stryker. That was during the earlier parts of White Zombie.
Why Stryker?
I don't know.
Okay. I thought you might have had a clue about that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing cool about it because.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's you could be a strike. You can go on strike. So maybe he's a striker.
I don't know.
Wait, or is it Straker? Anyway, I think it's Straker. Is it with an A or an I?
I don't know. But let's hear what you're doing now.
Big news. You want to go check it out? bignewspdx.bandcamp.com. That's where you can check out the album. And
which I recommend you do. It's great. Just straight ahead hard rock.
Hell yeah. And then for other information, you just go to my website, ivandeprume.com.
And hopefully, crossing my fingers, I'll be up in Portland doing some shows very soon. Hopefully, and when I do, I'll definitely let you know.
Can you come down to Umi's here in LA?
Yeah. What's the name of that place you work at?
The CIA, the California Institute of Abnormal Arts.
Oh, okay.
Anytime you're in LA, let me know.
And then you DJ at you're a DJ, you said, right?
Yeah, I haven't done it in years anymore because I kind of just jumped into this with Mark. So
cool.
She was a DJ at the Rainbow, and now her grandfather needs her more than the Rainbow does.
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah. Ivan, let me tell you something. You have been a great guest.
Yes, you
were. Thank you. You guys are awesome too.
Was it all you thought it would be and more?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie, again for setting this up. Charlie Renegade.
Charlie, what's up?
And Hail Hannah 666 on Instagram.
And
comedian, all social media. Mm-hmm. Everybody have a wonderful July 4th weekend and have a wonderfully creepy week.
You guys too. Thank you. Nice to meet you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.